When I started looking into this story, I thought it was going to be a simple one. Then this happened.
The result has shocked us completely.
Has facial recognition discovered a hidden portrait of Anne Boleyn, wife of Henry VIII?
I'm afraid to say it, but I think it's a load of rubbish.
And is this traditionally recognised portrait of the Tudor Queen actually her mum instead?
I don't get worked up. Just results are results, isn't it?
To really understand our fascination with this Tudor Queen and what she looked like, I've come to London to visit the National Portrait Gallery.
So, welcome to the Tudor Gallery.
Wow, look at this!
So I think it's fair to say that Anne Boleyn is one of the most famous figures from English history. So she is Henry VIII's second wife.
And I'm just looking because obviously her husband is there. You wouldn't want to mess with him, would you?
He ultimately divorced Catherine of Aragon, breaking England from the church in Rome, for Henry to then marry Anne Boleyn. So she triumphed, became Queen of England.
There's their baby, who became Queen Elizabeth I, right?
Exactly. But then, after only 3 years, court kind of conspired against her, her own mistakes, her own actions, and she ended up being executed on the scaffold at the Tower of London. We know this painting was made in the late 16th century, i.e. long after Anne's death.
So how would they know what she looked like?
Well, this is the kind of conundrum of the many mysteries that surround Anne Boleyn. One of them is the fact that we don't have a lifetime painted portrait of her that's kind of absolutely secure, a kind of a wonderful painting that we can use as a reference point to tell all those stories about her. Her reign wasn't necessarily long enough for a kind of established iconography, and there is this kind of tantalising suggestion that perhaps some of her images might have been deliberately destroyed.
And we've been fascinated with what she looked like ever since. So could computer science reveal what Anne Boleyn actually looked like during her lifetime?
More recently, we've got a lot more powerful facial recognition systems.
If evidence can be tested, then it should be tested.
Facial recognition allows computers to identify or verify someone from their face. The technology isn't without controversy. It's used for things like unlocking your phone, passport control, and some police investigations. But what about using facial recognition on sketches from the past?
An objective tool like this can be used to actually answer quite a lot of interesting and unknown questions.
Even though there are no known paintings of Anne Boleyn made during her lifetime, there are a few depictions, including this sketch by Hans Holbein the Younger. It is considered by many modern historians to be a genuine preparatory sketch of her, so she would have had to sit for this sketch, giving us a close likeness. Except for the questions. The age of the lettering. It's not in a Tudor style, but likely an 18th century hand. The light-coloured hair, when she was thought to be dark-haired. The full chin, when accounts suggest a slender neck. And her informal dress. On a queen? And there are, of course, arguments to counter these, more on those later. A team led by the University of Bradford has used facial recognition on the digital copies of the whole collection of drawings that this one belongs to see if an algorithm can put to bed the debate.
So the algorithm has been trained on photos of people. What we are looking at is a bunch of drawings, and then we are comparing these drawings through a machine-learned algorithm where there's no human input.
What we've done here is we've compared these drawings to Anne Boleyn's first cousins and to her daughter Elizabeth to look for the family similarity and geometry, and they clustered. And we've used drawings that we absolutely know are non-relations, and they don't cluster.
They've interpreted the percentages and clustering, where images group together based on facial resemblance, to propose a new theory, that this drawing is more likely to be Anne Boleyn's mum, and this previously unidentified woman could in fact be the doomed queen.
I think it's very exciting. We are opening new doors.
To generate leads in art history, you know, where the evidence is fragmentary and historians face a momentous task.
Case solved then? Not so fast.
A lot of art historical colleagues are a bit nervous about this kind of sort of gloves off stuff, but I think, if you see it, you've got to say it. Why not? I think academically I would describe it as a load of old phooey. I think this is trying to treat works of art as modern photographs. And it's simply impossible to do that. That's before you get into any of the other problems about their methodology and how they've approached this whole question. First of all, the drawing that we have for a long time thought was Anne Boleyn has her name in the top left-hand corner. It says Anne Boleyn Queen. And we know that that identification came from someone who knew what Anne Boleyn looked like. To attempt to demolish that with the aid of computer science 500 years after the event, I think is suspicious. But I also think it's suspicious that they then say that another completely unrelated drawing, which no one has ever said is Anne Boleyn before, is in fact Anne Boleyn. I think one of the things that convinces me that this drawing is in fact Anne Boleyn is that she's shown in a very informal pose. And it sounds paradoxical to say it, but actually a queen would be more likely to be seen at court in this kind of private dress. For much of the period she was queen, Anne Boleyn was pregnant. So I think it makes perfect sense that this is recording her in that moment.
So where does this leave us?
It's important that, this work and the result of it isn't about replacing scholarship or this is definitively Anne. It's not the end of a conversation, it's the beginning of a conversation.
So this is just another tool, I think, that will help the people who are working in this field, especially art historians.
The incredible emotional tragedy, ultimately, of her life is this story that people want to revisit. She's a subject in which people are so fascinated that there is this curiosity. And I think that kind of drives sort of ongoing research. People throwing different methodologies to try and answer a question that has been thought about for hundreds of years.